Welcome to today's Public Assistance webinar presented by the Training, Design, and Development section. Today's webinar is a high-level overview of FEMA's Public Assistance contract requirements.
First up is procurement and contracting guidance. FEMA provides PA funding for contract costs based on the terms of the contract, if the applicant meets federal procurement and contracting requirements. Tribal and local governments, including tribal recipients and PNPs, must comply with their own documented procurement procedures, applicable SLTT government laws and regulations, applicable federal laws and regulations. If a federal requirement is different than the SLTT requirement or the applicant's own requirements, it must use the most restrictive requirement. There are some pre-procurement considerations to be aware of. Tribal and local governments and PNPs must establish or update written procurement procedures that reflect applicable SLTT laws and regulations. They must maintain required written standards of conduct covering conflicts of interest and governing the performance of employees who engage in the selection, award, and administration of contracts. Tribal and local governments and PNPs should also create a pre-qualified list of responsible contractors identified to possess the qualifications and technical abilities to satisfy the applicant's potential requirement. A pre-qualified contractor is one that the applicant evaluated and determined to be qualified to perform the work based on capabilities, such as technical and management skills, prior experience, past performance, and availability. A pre-qualified contractor is still not entitled to a standby contract. The applicant must still conduct full and open competition. There are some general federal procurement requirements we are going to talk about next. Tribal and local governments and PNPs requirements include providing full and open competition, conducting the following steps to ensure the use of small and minority businesses, women's business enterprises, and labor surplus area firms when possible. The steps are: place such organizations that are qualified on solicitation list, ensure such organizations are solicited whenever they are potential sources, divide total requirements when economically feasible into smaller tasks or quantities, establish delivery schedules where the requirement permits, which encourages their participation, use the services and assistance as appropriate of the Small Business Administration and the Minority Business Development Agency of the Department of Commerce, and finally, to require the prime contractor to conduct the above steps if subcontracting. Performing a cost or price analysis in connection with every procurement action above the simplified acquisition threshold, including contract modifications. The simplified acquisitions threshold is defined as the dollar amount below which a non-federal entity may purchase property or services using small purchase methods. Evaluating and documenting the contractor's integrity, compliance with public policy, record of past performance, and financial and technical resources. Ensuring that the contractor was not suspended or debarred. Prohibiting the use of statutorily or administratively imposed SLTT geographic preferences, and evaluating bids or proposals, except where expressly encouraged by applicable federal laws. Excluding contractors that develop or draft specifications, requirements, statements of work, or invitations for bids, or requests for proposals from competing for such procurement to ensure objective contract performance and eliminate unfair competitive advantage. Maintaining records to detail the history of the procurement, including but not limited to rationale for the method of procurement, selection of contract type, contractor selection or rejection, and the basis for the contract price. We're going to talk about contracts a little more in depth. Starting with contract types. FEMA reimburses costs incurred by tribal and local governments and PNPs using 3 types of contract payment obligations. First is fixed price. This type of contract provides for a price that is not subject to any adjustment on the basis of the contractor's cost experience in performing the contract. This contract type places upon the contractor maximum risk and full responsibility for all cost and resulting profit or loss. Second is cost reimbursement. This type of contract provides for payment of allowable incurred cost to the extent prescribed in the contract. These contracts establish an estimate of total cost for the purpose of obligating funds and establish a ceiling that the contractor may not exceed, except at its own risk, without the approval of the contracting officer. Finally, and to a limited extent, time and materials contracts. These are only allowed if no other contract type was suitable, the contract has a ceiling price that the contractor exceeds at its own risk, and the applicant maintains a high degree of oversight to obtain reasonable assurance that the contractor is using efficient methods and effective cost controls. You should submit the following to support contract cost claimed. This is not an all-inclusive list, but includes procurement policy and documents, like the request for proposal, bids, and selective process, cost or price analysis, the contracts itself, any change orders, a summary of invoices, the actual dates worked, and finally, documentation that substantiates a high degree of contract oversight, such as a daily or weekly log. Now we're going to talk about some compliance requirements.
If you are working with any documents used for a FEMA grant, you are responsible for safeguarding personally identifiable information, or PII. PII refers to anything that can be used to directly or indirectly identify an individual. Some examples of PII are names, addresses, social security numbers, and financial account information. This type of information must not be uploaded into Grants Portal or Grants Manager. To report corruption, waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, and/or misconduct, contact the Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General by phone at 1-800-323-8603 or via the website or mailing address listed on the screen now. Procurement requirements are among the most complicated parts of the PA grant process, and noncompliance can result in deobligation of funding. Please make sure that you are following FEMA's procurement guidance for recipients and subrecipients. Federal requirements for procurement and contracting are described in 2 CFR Part 200. The Procurement Disaster Assistance Team, or PDAT, offers some training and tools on their website, www.fema.gov/grants/procurement. For technical assistance with Grants Portal or Grants Manager, you can call the PA Grants Portal Grants Manager hotline at 866-337-8448. National hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. The hotline can also be reached by email at FEMA-recovery-pa-grants@fema.dhs.gov. We have many other recorded webinars and tutorial videos available on our YouTube channel. You can find them by searching for FEMA Grants Portal on YouTube or by navigating to the Support Center in Grants Portal or Grants Manager.
Thank you for watching.